Hello, I'm Hazzan Kalver from Congregation B'nai Israel in Basking Ridge. This week's parshah is Tzav. Now, when I do a Dvar Torah on a Parshat Shavua like this one, ideally I find phrases in the parshah that are familiar to me from a song. Like if the parshah were Vizot HaBracha, I would pick the phrase Torah Tziva Lanu Moshe Morasha Kehilat Yaakov. Then I get to start the Dvar Torah by singing the song. Torah, 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 Tziva Lanu Moshe. And then I can center the Dvar Torah around the words from the song, and I get to finish by singing the song again at the end, maybe with a fade out. Morasha Kehilat Yaakov, Morasha Kehilat Yaakov, Morasha Kehilat Yaakov, Torah Tziva. Great, isn't that nice? But Parshat Tzav comes the second week into Sefer Vayikra, and it deals mostly with the mechanics of various types of animal and grain sacrifices. And I couldn't find any songs in Tzav. Not in the parshah, not in the haftara. So instead of singing, I'm going to have to talk, but I'll try to make it quick. Parshat Tzav is mainly about ritual sacrifices, and this connects it to the first two lines of the haftara, which comes from the book of Jeremiah, and those lines are also about ritual sacrifices, but not really. Here they are. Ko amar Adonai tzva'ot Elohei Yisrael olotechem sefu al zivchechem v'ichlu vasar ki lo dibarti et avotechem velo tzivitim beyom hotzi otam me'eretz Mitzrayim al divrei olah v'zavach. As Rashi explains this text, God is being sarcastic when God tells the Jews here that they should eat the meat of their burnt offerings. See, the Torah describes several types of animal offerings, and the rules for an olah offering require that all of the meat of the animal be given to God by turning it into smoke on the altar. So unlike other types of sacrifices, with olah, there is no meat left over for the priests or the owner to eat. So in the haftara, what God is saying is, you Jews might just as well enjoy eating the meat from your olah offerings, because I don't even want it. Then God adds, when I freed the Jews from Egypt, the first commandments I gave to Moses weren't even about temple sacrifices. Rather, they were about obeying my words and keeping my covenant. And the sacrifices are only a small part of that. Following the rules for a ritual itself, by itself, does nothing for me. I need more from you than that. The tradition of reading haftarot after reading from the Torah seems to go back to Second Temple days. And some of the pairings of the Torah portions and haftarah readings that we use today perhaps date back to the times of the ancient Jewish sages known as the Perushim, the Pharisees, who lived before the Tanaim, the very earliest rabbis from the Mishnaic era. Now, I don't claim to know what message, if any, was meant to be conveyed by the folks who paired Tzav with this piece of text from Jeremiah, whenever it was that they lived. But I see a contrast. The Torah reading for Tzav is about ritual sacrifices, while the haftarah for Tzav is dafka not about ritual sacrifices. I compared the thematic links between the other parshiot in Sefer Vayikra and their haftarot from our Chumash, and I don't see anything quite like this. It's as if we finish reading the rules for how to perform sacrifices from the Torah, and the haftarah opens with God saying, sarcastically, don't even bother with those rules. There's something else you need to do first, and that's to be faithful to me, not by faithfully performing rituals, but by being faithful in another, more general way. So what is it that God's looking for? In a nutshell, goodness, kindness, fairness, compassion, righteousness, the sort of universal righteousness that we associate with the prophets who lived in the days of the Israelite kings. In keeping with the tradition of not ending a haftarah on a very harsh note, the haftarah for Tzav skips over a bunch of verses from Jeremiah chapter 8 and 9 that dwell on the horrible punishment that's coming to the Jews for their bad behavior in those days. The behavior that God wants to see is summed up at the close of the haftarah. Ko amar Adonai al yitalel chacham b'chochmato ואל יתהלל הגיבור בגבורתו, אל יתהלל עשיר באושרו. כי אם בזאת יתהלל המתהלל, השכל וידוע אותו, כי אני אדוני עושה חסד, משפט וצדקה בארץ. כי ואלה חפצתי נאום אדוני.